Welcome aboard the Millenial Falcon. This is Jordan.
This is Christian.
This is Frankie.
And today TJ, we have a very special guest. He's our Don Draper of Star Wars. He writes a lot of our in-universe ads for us. So yeah, thanks for joining us, TJ. How you doing, bud?
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Good. Ready to talk some Star Wars?
I'm always ready to talk some Star Wars.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, we are parked in a hangar bay for routine maintenance today. Join us for a game of Dejarik Sabak or just to hang out. Also, make sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube. And if you want to get the audio-only version of this live stream, you can become a patron at patreon.com/StarLores for $3 a month. And then you get a whole bunch of extra benefits, like you can get access to all our other bonus episodes. But if you are not a patron, you can still listen to this, but only on YouTube. Unfortunately, you won't get the audio version of it. In any case,
no audio.
Yeah, exactly. In any case, so yeah, we thought we'd just get together and kind of talk Star Wars. This will be a little more informal than our typical episodes. We wanted to talk Star Wars news, Star Wars current events, that kind of stuff, and just general Star Wars stuff. Doesn't have to be necessarily current events, but yeah. Anyways, first on the docket, guys, a lot of rumors floating about a new Rey trilogy. In fact, hilariously, the I think it was Kathleen Kennedy said that their only asset in Star Wars was Rey Palpatine. I won't say Skywalker. I'll say Palpatine.
You can't
Which
slam that Skywalker name.
Yeah. Thoughts? Is Rey Star Wars' only saleable good right now, or what do you guys think about that?
I think if you're locked into a certain mindset, then she is. If you want to completely hamstring your operation and limit your potential, but yeah, I think no. Obviously, there's lots of other things they can do, and it's all the non mainstream stuff that they've done that's been popular. Things like The Mandalorian, or Rogue One, or Andor.
Yeah,
they definitely have other options if they wanted to. But just like, I mean, all the expanded universe, they're just not gonna. They're either not gonna tap into it, or they're gonna take it, make it their own, pervert it, and then pretend like they came up with it themselves. So,
yeah. I think the general consensus I feel like is out there, and at least maybe I won't put it out there on everybody, but my feel is that anything sequel trilogy is actually a detriment to the Star Wars name. So I don't know in what world she's living in with a take like that, but that is certainly a hot one. As hot as a burning Anakin Skywalker.
At this point, I feel like if they want to keep making movies, their best bet is just to stick to the spin-offs, because this sequel trilogy bombed.
Yeah, there's like no excitement for it, like I don't think anyone is getting ready to spend money to go see more Rey. Like I'm sorry, she's just not getting people out of their seats. For Rogue One, people will go pay to see Darth Vader, but they're not gonna.
Yeah, Vader's probably their biggest asset, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Even now,
even if they did like a Vader movie, like where he's just wrecking face for 2.5 hours, I would pay untold amounts of money for that.
Yeah, and to get a few scenes here and there sprinkled with Vader like in his back to tank recovering, and a little shot of Hayden Christensen there, all with his mangled face. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, I mean, like Star Wars Theory has that market locked down with his own personal project.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
But obviously there's hype around it. So,
So do you guys think this film will actually happen? I feel like this is just one of, because Star Wars does this a lot, especially, or I should say not Star Wars, Marvel, Disney,
Yeah.
Lucasfilm, where they'll like leak these stories that are almost certainly not true, just to try and gauge the audience to see where they're at, if they're actually gonna do something.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit bait, this news.
They've done that. They've done that several times with some of those newer, like half animated movies where it's part CGI, like Sonic, and recently with this new live action Lilo and Stitch that's coming out. They released an image of Stitch, but it was really a really bad animation, really bad model, kind of like what they did with the original Sonic model. And I felt like it was like, yeah, we're going to go with this idea. And I felt like they did that just to upset people to see what the reaction would be.
Yeah.
And then, but they already had the, oh, no, we're going to do this. And it's a better Stitch. And it looks like, like an actual animated version of the cartoon Stitch. It looks really good. It's a good model.
I'm going to have to look up their original pitch. Was it poorly received?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never actually thought about that. And it makes a lot of sense, because it's like you generate anger by all the fans, and then you go back and you go, oh wait, no, we fixed it, and then everyone's gonna say, oh, did they really? Right? Like,
Yeah.
So that's a.
I
mean,
know,
obviously, a marketer like yourself, TJ, would know something like that, the ins and outs. So it makes sense that you would have
Star Wars.
Yeah,
I don't know that they're trying to anger the fans, but they're just testing the waters. Is what I would say.
Yeah.
Also, with the Rey thing, Jordan, it's more than just rumor. They actually announced it at Celebration Europe, Star Wars Celebration Europe. Like, they pulled Daisy Ridley out on stage and like made a whole big deal about her coming back and doing more movies. And then
was that Disney though, or was that just
it was at Celebration, like officially sanctioned event.
I mean, that doesn't mean they won't kibosh it though.
Well, no. So here's the funny part: is they've already reneged. So they had it tentatively scheduled for like December next. I don't know if it's next year, 2026. Yeah,
I could be wrong on that though.
No, you're right. Yeah, they had it slated for 2026, and they've already pulled it. So not only did they announce it, it's just like, remember when they did those like huge string of announcements, like they had Star Wars Rangers or something like that.
Oh yeah,
like half of those shows they just completely
never made it.
Stopped. Yeah, stopped all production on. And then all the times they were back and forth about like the next trilogy and all these different directors that they've onboarded and then canned. Yeah,
for sure. Just Jonathan in the chats, he said, in reference to our discussion about a Vader show,
that's one of my favorite comics.
He says they could adapt Vader Down, a pretty good canon comic where the rebels shoot Vader down, and it's just him versus an entire rebel army. That would, of course, be sick. And yes, actually, this is one of the good comic arcs that Marvel or Disney released under the Star Wars banner. One of the ones that was really well received. I actually haven't read it yet. I've read sort of some of the overview of it, and it seems sweet, and I will get around to it. But
Christian, that's the one where they have the one pane where it goes, I'm just surrounded by fear, and then he ignites his lightsaber and dead men. Is that the same one?
Yeah, I think that's the same one. I haven't gotten there yet either. I have started that series. I have quite a few of those Vader comics. And
that is one of the hardest. That is one of the I stood in the comic store and read that whole comic, and it's a thick comic. Because I was too cheap to buy it, but I spent like an hour and a half reading it, and it has one of the hardest Vader scenes I have ever seen, dude.
They have some sick highlights. There's a few where they actually make Vader look pretty good. So
it would be sweet too if they even like a mini series or a movie where they just made like a little Vader arc and did like rated R too, like really go hard on it,
Like Vader.
What about a like a Lords of the Sith movie? Like if they adapted the book to film.
I'm not familiar with that book.
Yeah,
It's the
explain what the Lords of the Sith are for the
it's the novel where Palpatine and Vader are on a secret mission and they go and crash land on a planet and have to survive together.
Oh, that
okay.
sounds sweet. Is
Yeah,
it
it's
is
kind
it
of
you or is it EU?
That was the EU, I believe.
I think it's EU.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't dug into that at all.
Yeah, I mean
Here,
that'd be a cool concept too.
Yeah, I'll send you guys some information over on
Yeah,
Missy.
for sure. That'd be sweet.
Uh,
The reality, I feel like they just like when they do Vader, like Vader needs to be just one of my biggest gripes. Sorry, this might be a slight tangent, but one of my biggest gripes with the Obi-Wan series was I felt like they didn't do Vader like justice. In some ways they did him good, and in other ways it's like the part where he's tearing the ship apart with the Force, super awesome. But like peak Vader should be like absolutely terrifying. And when they get him right on screen, it's like, or even in video games and stuff, right? It's like I was just talking earlier about playing through Fallen Order, and the Vader stuff in that is like so well done. So anything that has Vader just wrecking Jedi face is, that is gold. That is gold. That is a cash cow they need to tap into.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's like a force of nature, just like pure fear. Like Rogue One did it well.
Yes.
Like you said, Fallen Order did it well, where it's just like you can't. It's not even a boss battle. It's like you need to run away from this.
Yeah,
thing.
you literally can't
Destroy it.
win.
Yeah.
I'm sort of two minds of Vader in Obi-Wan. I do appreciate that at the very least when he fought, what's that? I can't remember the girl's name. She was like the primary antagonist in the.
Says a lot about Reva.
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 At least like Reva, the fight between them was like, it was no contest. Like I was worried that they were going to make a fight between her and Vader and it was going to be like a close match. And I'm like, but they didn't, which I appreciate. They just like basically Vader just toyed with her, right? Their whole fight. So I'm glad they at least kept that.
It's just the Obi-Wan Vader fight, man. Yeah. I had serious issue with that. Like, I feel like it cheapened A New Hope.
Let's not get into that here. But
I will do a separate live stream on just Obi-Wan.
An hour and a half long rant.
Yeah, I have a long rant on Obi-Wan.
Okay, last thing. Could Rey's image be redeemed or salvaged? Rey's character.
Yes.
Okay,
if they start the new trilogy with Finn waking up from a nightmare and that whole sequel trilogy is just gone. And then they can put Rey back in, and then she can be a proper character, and they can actually teach her how to use the Force.
I love it. I think that's great. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We'll leave it right there. Okay. Onto our next thing on the docket here. So as well, also in the rumor mill is another, I don't know if it's going to be a standalone film or a trilogy. I've heard both, but a one from James Mangold, who he's, as far as we know, he is writing a script for Disney. Again, whether or not they ultimately greenlight it, I'm not so sure that it will be greenlit. But he's writing a script for a sort of Dawn of the Jedi or Dawn of the Jedi inspired film. Now, I will say I am a fan of James Mangold. He has some pretty sweet films.
What do you like of his?
So have you watched like 310 to Yuma or Walk the Line?
No, but 310 is on my list.
310 is really good.
Yeah,
those are like Walk the Line. I also love
Logan too.
Yeah, Logan.
I absolutely love Logan.
I actually have mixed feelings on Logan.
Really?
I know we've talked about this, but I really like Logan, and
this
I really
Star Wars stream, Christian.
Yeah. Like James Mangold, like not all his films are like home runs.
Indiana Jones, maybe.
Yeah. His recent
the last
most
one,
recent
the
one.
Dial
like
of
the
Destiny.
skull. Oh
no, Dial of Destiny, the one that you didn't even watch because it was so trash. Yeah.
I don't, it actually made surprisingly quite a bit of money.
Yeah, but that's the whole problem is anyone will go watch it because they think it's going to be what they remember, and it never is.
Yeah. So, anyways, my point isn't that like James Mangold is like perfect. I'm just saying that he has made some really good stuff in the past, and he does when he has like 310 to Yuma was like a remake of like a vintage film, and he really does justice to like the original stories. Same with Logan. Like obviously Logan was his own story, but he really did pull a lot of like obvious threads, and he gave a lot of fan service to the Old Man Logan comic book series. So I think I don't know. Star Wars is always tough because I feel like there's so many executives involved in every single Star Wars movie that it's almost impossible for like a creative person to actually tell a good story. Yeah, without like 1,000 hands in the pot. But even the whole idea that they want to take Dawn of the Jedi would be interesting, only because it is more of a clean slate. Obviously, you're not dealing with any of the old characters. You're not dealing with anything from the original universes. You're just like you kind of got a clean slate. Now there was the Dawn of the Jedi comic books, and there was also a spin-off novel. But it was actually cut off by Disney because it was like gonna be the whole Dawn of the Jedi arc set 25,000 years before Battle of Yavin, was going to be kind of the next big story arc in the EU. But then Disney bought it, and they kind of ended it. Yeah, exactly. So it never really got fleshed out that much. And it was interesting. It wasn't like a perfect comic series, but it was definitely very interesting. And we've covered it on our show as well. But it's like a very interesting premise for like a Star Wars film. But I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you like this idea? Do you hate it? Do you just want Disney to stop making Star Wars films?
If I could choose, I would choose the last option there, to just stop. But if we're going to keep doing this, I agree with what you said. Like, obviously it would be a clean slate. We don't have to deal with any characters that people are too attached to. Not a lot of people are familiar with like Dawn of the Jedi era stuff. And because it is Disney canon, they can do what they want with it, really. Like, I wouldn't be upset if they go completely off of what was already written, or if they try something totally new. Any way you cut it, as long as it is good, then it would be watchable. But I mean, we have so little information to go off of. Who knows? And obviously they don't have a great track record with anything they touch, so I'm not hopeful.
I don't know. I don't totally agree. Like Rogue One was good.
And yeah, you know when that came out, Jordan?
Yeah, when did that come out? Like 9 years ago.
Yeah, that tells you something. That's the last good thing they did. That's a problem.
They're like 3 for 20 at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not a good
their track record is not good. They have
and
far
even the
more losses than wins at this point.
And even the stuff they did do well, they ended up screwing up anyways, like The Mandalorian or their animated shows. Like,
I think I missed. I was messing with my camera there, but is it just one? Is it supposed to be just one movie, or is it a trilogy?
I'm not sure. It seems a little unclear. It might be a trilogy, but it might be one. My suspicion would be they would run a single film, and if it's really successful, they'll make a trilogy out of it.
Right.
But,
franchise anything. Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to get a Lando spinoff.
I was in the slate of canceled productions, sir.
That one I'm very glad was canceled. I could not imagine them doing anything good with, robosexual Lando. So
you insert the Futurama clip.
Yeah.
What about you, TJ? What's your take?
I know they're gonna keep making movies. Disney does not know how to stop making movies. They'll milk anything they can until it's dry. Like they're already doing it with turning all their animated films into live action films. But I think if they pick a good director and they get a solid focus for a film, I think they can do a good job with it.
Yeah, it's almost more frustrating. Okay, this might be a second thing altogether, but it's almost more frustrating for me when they make good Star Wars content, because it like proves to me that they can. And then when you get 7 or 8 trash shows or movies in a row, it's like, okay, you guys are literally choosing to put garbage out and then try and get people to pay for it. So it's like they need to have us, for me to start trusting them again, there needs to be like 5 or 6 quality productions back to back, and before you can be like, okay, yeah, you guys care again. Because it's like you get one. I literally had this discussion with some friends the other day, and I was like, you get one, kernel of corn in the whole turd, and at some point you're not happy when that's being served to you. There's a kernel of edible on this. So yeah, I don't know. For me, they really have done a lot of damage, I think, to the fans and to the fan base, that there's a lot of trust that needs to be rebuilt by putting out quality content. And I think they're in the mindset of just putting out content versus quality. And I don't know. I don't know what to think about it.
If they just did like only had one live action show running at a time, and then maybe like an animated show running, and then did like one movie every 2 years, and just kept that pace, and just like really cared about what they were making,
Mhm.
and not just trying to do corporate industrial slop for
Mhm.
for consumption,
For the
right?
masses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
No, I was just thinking that's
The way it was, they gave me a good, this is one of my close friends, and he gave me a good perspective on it, into what he thinks that they're doing. And he works in the film industry, and he was saying, I think what they're trying to do is make something for everyone. And to me, in doing that, they've actually made nothing for everyone, right? Like,
for anyone.
yeah, made nothing good for anyone, right? Because it's like, when you're dividing and trying to cover the entire market, it's like, well, when you put out 7 pieces of content for audiences that aren't for you, however they want to put it, right? It's like, well, you've just hijacked the entire franchise. So I don't know, when you're spreading yourself too wide to try and get everybody, I wonder if that has an issue, if that's an issue in like retaining the people that are loyal to your brand, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is multifactorial. Like it is that, and it is what Jordan said of like industrialized corporate slop. Like there's so many layers of why things are not working out, and it's not just Star Wars anymore. It used to be Star Wars was its own bag of problems, but it's just spread to like everything that Disney touches. And I don't know how sustainable it is for Disney. At some point, they're going to reach a breaking point. I think, this is my conspiracy hat, I don't know that they can keep up this rate. And I think they're almost in a situation where they have to put out stuff in order to make back their investments as quickly as possible now. Like they're kind of caught in a catch-22.
Well,
and I think it just ends badly.
But they lost like a lot of money on the Acolyte, because it was like one of their most expensive show they ever made.
All of the Star Wars content from last year has lost the money.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a bigger problem than Star Wars. Like all their stuff is losing them money. All their movies that they're doing.
You can't do that forever, right?
Right, exactly. So I suspect we might see in the next, I don't know how long it's going to take, but Disney might start having to sell off IPs to cover their costs. They might, because they went on that huge spree 10, 15 years ago where they started buying up all these IPs, right? They bought Marvel, they bought Star Wars. And now I think it's come back to bite them, and they might need to make that cash back and start offloading, which I will be grateful for if they do. But we'll see.
I can only hope.
Okay, and so on that note, let's have all you guys watch at least the first episode of The Skeleton Crew, the new show.
Yes.
Hold on, before we move on, just someone in the chat there.
Okay.
Jonathan is saying, if they focus on an interesting, unique story, just divorce it from any legacy characters, keep some things about Rey's character, and perhaps give a little assumed wisdom and growth since episode 9. I sort of agree with you. but the emphasis is on that divorce of legacy characters, and I think that goes for both EU and Disney characters. Like we were saying with the proposed Dawn of the Jedi, that would be kind of the fresh start that they would need to have a clean slate and not, carry on with any other character stories. Like, I don't know that they can recover from what they've done.
And we're all just praying like they don't touch like Revan or Bastila or Kreia or any of those great characters.
I'm like torn because like it'd be sweet to see those characters put on screen.
At what cost, Frank?
Yeah, exactly. No. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm like, I have such a deep, like, I love those characters, and I do not trust them with it. But it's like the idea of having those characters translated to the big screen done well, but I don't think it's worth the risk of them doing it poorly. That I don't want them to touch those characters.
Give us a dark Revan story, but have Fede Alvarez direct it.
Oh yeah, what's his fame?
The last movie he just did was Alien Romulus. That movie was so good.
Oh man, I haven't seen it. It's on my
It
to-do
was,
list.
it's so much better than the last few Alien movies that came out. It's like it's just as good as Alien 1 and 2.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
Yep.
I've heard it was phenomenal.
And someone could fact check me on this, but I even heard Chris Nolan had said he would be willing to do a Star Wars movie if they approached him about it, which like maybe he could reinvigorate the franchise, but someone would just but the thing is another in about like what Disney does is you'll notice that all of their directors are pretty green, and they don't have, for the most part, they don't have like a lot of experience under their belts. Yeah, and they do this probably to pay them a lot less, because directors like Chris Nolan, even James Mangold is probably going to be pretty expensive. And they don't want to pay like top tier directors or top tier writers,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then it goes back to that caring about, right? That's the corporate angle versus the caring about the art and you wanting the best man for the job and all that stuff. So,
but it would be sweet if Chris Nolan, I mean, look what he did with Batman. Like he
So would you want a whole Star Wars reboot and just like completely different style and like
every 10 years?
I could see it. Maybe
it's revisited.
No, but maybe he just does a single film. He doesn't do like a whole trilogy or anything, right? And just
that'd be sweet.
Take the interesting idea. Yeah.
It's just it's hard because there's stories out there to be told, and it's like, but like I said, for me, the trust isn't there. It's like they need a string of hits for me to be like, all right, you've gained my trust back. But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, should we jump into Skeleton Crew?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. And then at the end we'll do a little fan theory. So TJ, did you catch any Skeleton Crew yet?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, fair enough. You guys have seen a little bit. I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
I watched the first part of
I got as far as the first episode and then I was out. I'm like, I'm done.
Did you finish it?
I rushed it. Yeah.
You watched it on 2x speed?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give an initial just reaction to Skeleton Crew, and obviously like a million people have already given Skeleton. They do it like within 24 hours of the show release.
Spoilers ahead as well.
Yeah. Also spoilers
for the first episode. Sure.
Yeah. I'll give sort of like I'll quickly go over what I thought was like good or decent about it. It actually really was. The episode that I saw was pretty tight and cohesive, and a plot that seemed to make sense. And visually looked very good, and audio, all that kind of, obviously like very high budget, which is good. Things I didn't love about it is
that stops you. The pros stop there.
Wait, can I throw a pro before we move on to the comments?
Sure, go ahead.
I kind of like muddled around the aesthetic of that pirate captain with a mirrored face and his hat.
Oh
yeah. I kind of digged it. It took me a minute. I'm like, I don't know if I like this, and then eventually I settled on I think it's pretty
like
simple.
the Jude Law character or the other guy.
The one who has the mirrored
the helmet.
helmet,
Yeah.
and then like the
Yeah.
hat that almost looks like a tricorn, but it's like sci-fi, so it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will second that. While I was watching, I was like, okay, this is like a pirate, like they're really leaning into the pirate aesthetic here. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I really liked the cool little arms that like shot into the ship and then opened up for like, I thought that was a cool take on like a boarding party. And I like at first I was like, I don't know if I like this. And then once I saw the alien get his eye shot out, I thought that was cool. So I was like, yeah, no, this is kind of a cool take. I admittedly I don't think there's a whole ton of blasters in Star Wars, so it was kind of cool to see like I'm wondering if this is kind of where the direction the show is going, if it's going to lean into like, less Jedi and more, but then we get to the whole premise of
I mean, I don't think there'll be much for Jedis or the Force. Like they'll reference it, obviously, but I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the show plays out. But okay, okay. First of all, just the genre. It's obviously like a coming of age story, and it is like literally just a formula, like a plot formula that is just lifted from like a dozen other shows and movies.
yeah.
That was very predictable and not creative or imaginative at all. And
Star Wars Goonies.
yeah, Star Wars Goonies, even Stranger Things, like there was a lot of that in it. And they were just trying to like, I don't know,
Capitalize on it.
yeah, capitalize on that, which is typically a popular genre. But I just thought it was so unimaginative on their part. Like they're just taking a formula and just like slapping some Star Wars lipstick on it. And on that note, too, the other thing I kind of hated was the whole setting. Like the literal aesthetic is like suburbia, like our world suburbia,
Yes.
like literally roads and sidewalks.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that there, the school, everything is just like our world, just like with some
In Star Wars.
lipstick, or like not even like just science fiction lipstick on it,
Yeah.
And it was so like not creative at all, and it really, really bugged me. I was just like, everything about it, again, it was like a fine, tight story, unlike what they've done with other stories, but it was just like, it was so formulaic and so like just no creativity in it whatsoever. And even having like, okay, kids riding around their bicycles in the neighborhood, it's just so, I think, cliche and overdone. I just like, I don't know, I did not like it. I did not feel like they're trying to bring us back into our world and not like help us to step into the galaxy far, far away, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
if they wanted to
agree.
do that,
Sorry, go ahead.
There's things that you could do to add to the immersion in those kind of situations, like things that you can swap out. Like instead of a bicycle, you can give those kids like one of those little kid speeders. They exist.
That's what they did.
That's what they did.
Before.
No, that's what I'm saying. They did do that.
Oh, okay.
But they have these little speeders, but they're just bicycles, right? Like in our world, they're just, I don't know. It was just kind of like, it was kind of silly. Everything was like a 1-to-1 comparison to something we would see in our world, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't creative at all.
It actually drove me nuts. I agree that was my biggest critique.
I was like, the same thing.
You can't like make their school different. Like there's a bell and they're all walking to like, no, it was
sitting at desks. It was just ridiculous.
I was like, there's for sure you could have thought like, one of the things I like about like the whole Jedi Temple aesthetic with the children is like how they're teaching the children, and like
100%.
You could make their classrooms look different. Other than
and they're sitting even in I think it was Attack of the Clones, like all the kids are sitting sort of in a circle, being like on the ground, like a Jedi would, obviously, but there's just like it's not exactly like a 1-for-1 comparison to our own world.
I really disliked it. I feel like it took me out of
me too.
Now what I've heard from the show, the feeling I've gotten is people saying it's pretty good from the first episode so far. I mean, I haven't seen enough of it to give like a stamp of approval or anything yet. I'm gonna watch the rest of it because I will say they did do a good job of. I felt like I was kind of interested into what happens next.
You
at
were
least at the
intrigued.
end of the first. Yeah, I was intrigued for sure. But there was a lot of it that I just was like,
That's
yeah,
dumb.
yeah.
Okay, so kind of going back to your point there about like just being a one-for-one comparison. I know a lot of people are going to try and defend the show by saying like, well, isn't Star Wars just, a Western in space or samurai in space, or, whatever comparison they want to make. And that is partially true, but Lucas took like the spirit of those things and made it his own and combined it with other things and added his own spin on it. So, for example, like a good example is Han Solo. He flies a space freighter. He's pretty much a space trucker. His ship doesn't look like a truck with an engine strapped on the back instead of wheels. He doesn't wear a baseball cap or like that's the level of one-for-one comparison we're talking about here. It's like you can take inspiration from these real world concepts and ideas and stories, and even if you want to launch the 80s out into sci-fi space, but you got to change it up enough that it's believable in their own context and isn't just a sci-fi version of the 80s of middle class America. Like it is very specific. And I suspect that's also done too to try and hook into that. Like people nowadays are just hooked on nostalgia, and I get it.
They're trying to do the Stranger Things,
right? And Stranger Things. The reason why Stranger Things was so successful and why the Goonies, nowadays people look back on with such nostalgia, is exactly that. It reminded us of a better time. And like that stuff is bait, man. It gets people, it gets butts in theaters, it gets people in front of TV screens, and they know that. Like the movie industry knows that. That's why we have so many sequels and prequels and everything. Is that nostalgia drug that people are chasing?
Yeah, for me though, I'm just like, I'll just watch Stranger Things. Like, why would I watch?
Yeah, I just watch something better. But corporate executives don't think like that, Jordan.
I felt like I was almost baited into it because, like I said, the first kind of 5-minute kind of pirate thing, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm interested to see kind of how the kids are brought in, and then it just like completely switched gears to like these, And
so
I'm not actually against like because well, it seems like they're aiming for a younger audience in this one, probably trying to like get like they're making a really child-friendly Star Wars, I feel like. And I'm not against that. Like, episode 1 could almost be argued that, was a lot, leaning so much into like young Anakin and all that kind of stuff. But there was still, I don't know. I
agree.
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference between making like a movie or a show specifically for a younger audience, and then on the other hand, what Disney's been doing is just gearing their entire Star Wars franchise towards a new audience. Like they just want to bring in the younger audience and get rid of the older audience and provide their own take on Star Wars for this newer audience. And if they can hook them, then you've got this whole new generation that's going to watch all your media for the rest of their, natural life, presumably.
Right.
Versus the old audience like us who does not
curmudgeon-y old people.
We already the ones with the money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Tej, I agree with you on a broader sense, but and to you too, Frankie, I do think Skeleton Crew is aimed at both. I think Skeleton Crew was supposed to be the thing that brought in the old fans from the 80s and 90s who wanted to feel that nostalgia kick, and then have it child friendly enough that like, oh, look at these cool young protagonists that you can see yourself as. I think this was their attempt to hit both audiences, and I don't know how successful it is with the kids, but it's definitely not hitting with the people that lived that era. So, but broadly, I agree with you. Like the whole franchise is what they're trying to do is bring in fresh blood, but that obviously doesn't seem to be working, which is why I think they're trying to bait back older fans now, which would be a very recent turn.
Are you going to watch more of it?
I will do it because I probably have to for our show, but not because I want to.
Same.
I feel like an obligation to actually see the media before I start, tearing into it. I will say, I am currently also watching the Star Wars Christmas special at the same time.
Why?
And because we're spoilers, we are going to be doing a review of that fine piece of work. And I will say, surprisingly, a lot of the problems, and you'll hear me talk about it more on the show later on, is it actually suffers from a lot of the same issues of that one-to-one comparison of real life and this fictional universe, and they do it quite a bit in the Christmas Chronicles too. So stay tuned for that when we drop that episode.
I will say, like, I agree with Frankie. Probably the best scene was the opening scene. That was like the most intriguing. I was like the most interested in that, and I am interested to see what goes on with that storyline and how.
Yeah, I care way more about that.
And to be fair, like, it seems like they're kind of in space now, and the next episodes, presumably the rest of the season, is going to be like more in space, more Star Warsy than that first episode. And a lot of my gripes were just maybe only with the first episode. So we will.
I want to make a prediction, and I love that this is recorded because we'll be able to go back and see how correct it is. But here's my, like, after watching just the first episode, I feel like there's a mutiny. Jude Law's character gets kicked out. Wherever the kid's spaceship is going to go to wherever Jude Law is. He's going to join their crew. They're now the skeleton crew. And then it's going to be a journey of getting Jude Law, his crew, back. And yeah, that's my,
Prediction.
My prediction. And I'm very curious to see how much of that hits and is wrong. But I do feel like it's fairly predictable from here already.
Yeah, it seems like pretty predictable to me. But yeah, like, I will say it wasn't as much of a slog to watch as like the Book of Boba Fett was for me. That was like a slog.
Man, that wasn't a slog. That was I was anticipating something good to happen the entire time. That hurt more.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a slog, you can just like be bored. But I was like, it kept me engaged long enough to hope that something good was going to happen the whole time.
I was bored. Boba Fett, man. I was
like no relief. You're never satisfied. You're just like held on a little string. Like, okay, it's gonna get good now. Okay, it's gonna get good now. Okay, no, it's gonna get good now. And then it just never got good. And then
never did.
You feel sick after. You're like, wow.
Well, man, that was the biggest misdirection. The trailer for Boba Fett was so awesome. Having him be this like underworld, like him walking up to Bib Fortuna and shooting him in the chest and sitting on the throne, like so Conan the Barbarian-esque, just so hard and ruthless. And what we were given, this altruistic Boba Fett, was just wild to see, man. It was such a character betrayal.
Well, yeah, like the noble savage trope on the sand people thing too. Was
just everything.
We don't use that word here.
Sorry. No, but my wider point is, though, like, I feel like I will be a little bit more entertained than I was watching. I'll be more entertained watching Skeleton Crew than I was watching the Book of Boba Fett. But yeah.
So anyways, help me God, they make that one kid a Jedi, I will lose my shit.
Fair enough.
Sorry,
okay.
I forgot we're keeping this clean.
Well, yeah, trying to, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, we'll move on to a fan theory, and then we'll call it a night. So this isn't from no one submitted this to us, but I just thought it was interesting. I found it on the Reddits, the hive of scum and villainy that place is. From Reddit, a Reddit user, he says, so this is sort of my own theory, as I haven't seen anyone discussing it, but Abeloth was behind several ridiculous things that happened in the sequel trilogy. She caused Luke to endure Force psychosis, leading him to attempt to kill young Ben Solo. She rescued Leia when she was blown out of the ship to cause more pain and misery amongst the resistance, to grow in strength, and that Rey is an avatar for Abeloth herself, which is why she has immense force powers and abilities, even though she's a novice with everything Jedi related. So I know TJ had his own theory, or his own alt universe earlier in the show, where Finn just had a bad dream. he ate something bad the night before, but here's another one. What do you guys think? Just throw Abeloth in here. what do they call her? The Queen of Darkness or something.
As a
And
coverall.
yeah, she's just like an agent of chaos, and I actually like it more than I like the sequel trilogy storyline.
I like Abeloth being the big bad a lot more than Palpatine coming back from the dead.
1000%. Yeah.
I just think it's an attempt to merge EU fiction with Disney fiction, and like at that point, okay, just write whatever you want then, because it's just made up. Like, I doubt Disney's gonna resurrect Abeloth. I don't think there's been any hints towards that.
No. Abeloth is too fringe of a character.
Yeah, like if you're headcanoning that, like again, you might as well just headcanon the whole entire universe again, because you might as well.
Kind of the whole point of fan fiction, Christian.
Yeah.
And most of Abeloth's story arc circled around Jaina and Jason Solo. Since they've been cut from the canon lore, there's no point in bringing her in.
Yeah. And even Disney, like from what they have done with the Celestials and stuff already, that could have been something they could have inserted, but there's just no mention. There's no avenue to insert her now. I mean, they always could rewrite it, but I'm just saying from what we've seen so far, there would be no evidence to support that she even exists in the canon universe.
But I thought that was because there was no material to pull from, in the words of Kathleen Kennedy.
If they bring Abeloth in, they should name her Kathleen. That's what they should do.
I welcome the introduction of Abeloth. Then we might be able to see Sinkhole Station.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But again, like it goes back to like, do you want them to ruin more stuff that you like? Like, is that what we?
No, we're not. No, but we're not saying for the purposes of this. We're not saying that this is ever going to be a possibility.
Gonna happen.
We're just like, we're just like,
again. If I'm going to headcanon it, I'm just going to take the things I like, which are very little, and then just discard the entire rest of the universe. Just mentally jettison them. I
mean, as far as I'm concerned, like the sequel trilogy is just an infinities timeline. That's what it is. It's nothing else. So
but Darth Vader, Darth Maul coming back, it's all
exactly.
Although Maul coming back is kind of a weird place now too, because they did officialize it, but it did happen after the Disney acquisition.
I have a serious bone to pick with how much resurrection. Again, sorry to come back to Obi-Wan, but the amount of people that were stabbed with a lightsaber in that show and then just like shrugged it off.
No, man, it's worse than just that show. They do it again in.
It's a meme now. It's like
that's what I'm saying. It's like, guys, lightsabers kill people. Can we all agree that when you get gutted with a freaking plasma like blade, your intestines, you don't just walk that off? Like
only Qui-Gon is weak enough to be killed by getting stabbed by a lightsaber.
It's crazy.
I remember when lightsabers used to kill people.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I will say, I like Darth Maul, and I like Mechanical Legs Darth Maul. It's kind of cool. Like, Rebels was kind of fun in some ways, but at the same time, I'm like, if he stayed dead, there would have been no qualms from me. You know, like, getting cut in half is a whole nother, like, come on. Where's the line, people? Where's the line?
I feel like he was originally supposed to stay dead, but he had the same effect that Boba Fett had. You know, the fans wanted more, so they brought him back.
But even Boba Fett makes more sense. It's like he's in something that digests you for 1,000 years, right? Like the chances of you surviving that is, I feel like, way more believable than getting sliced in half.
The whole thing with Darth Maul coming back comes from actually I believe it's an Infinities story they did publish of that Darth Maul with mechanical legs attacking Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Some artist and like they published this again. I can't remember exactly what publication it was. Maybe Star Wars Visions. They wrote this story because it was kind of cool. They're like, what if Obi-Wan faced off with Darth Maul in the desert again? And they took that story and they took that imagery and they used it. They do this a lot actually, is they deep dive into the canon. They take things that they like and then they re-implement it. And that was probably Dave Filoni's doing for the Maul piece. But I'm just to say, like, that is where the idea originates, and that's where the original. And that Darth Maul looks savage. Like he's got like overgrown horns, and like his legs are more like we call it like the reverse knee.
And again, I'm not sorry. My take is not that
Warping
like I'm
field.
mad at Darth Maul coming back, because like I said, that was previous Lucasfilms stuff, and it's not that. It's
Well, it
it's
wasn't, but even in that, it
everyone
wasn't
else.
official. Yeah. No, I know what
but
you're
it's
saying, but I'm just
it's
trying to
it's
clarify.
the overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, like make lightsabers lethal again and blah blah. Too many resurrections. But I'm just saying, like
Matt, we need to make that a hat. Make
Even-
lightsabers lethal again.
make it like a sticker you can slap on your truck or your gun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Merch.
Was
I got it.
what
I got
was
you,
gonna
boys.
say? No, like even within the old EU, that never actually happened. It was like a vision story. It was never actually canonized. So
Right.
We actually have been there's been a little bit of a discussion in the Discord group as well, just about too many resurrections, too many characters coming back that should be dead. There's no finality, and basically it kind of cheapens anyone who dies. Yeah, because if you can just come back for whatever reason, then
all right, guys. Mace Windu spin-off.
you know, honestly,
Guess
that
what?
one I've seen.
We've
some
already
really
talked.
sick
Yeah,
ideas for
I
that.
know.
I want it.
I also
That's the
don't
most
hate.
believable.
This is the part that I'm. Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm torn in some of these, because it's like it'd be cool to see one-armed Mace Windu wreck face, but at the same time, it's like it's now it's happened so much that the characters you want to come back to life,
You
I feel
can't
like
now.
they can't, because everybody has. So it's like, all right. Well, you guys killed that one.
I gotta correct something I did mention. What I believe, and this is what Clone Wars is like messed up in my mind now, because I never know what was released first. But I do think they brought back Maul in the old Clone Wars before the Disney acquisition, which means it was canonized in the old EU.
I like distinctly
wasn't
remember
even a
seeing
Disney
an
thing.
action figure, and I feel like I remember seeing an action figure, or at least like concept art of an action figure with Darth Maul with like spider legs. And I don't know if I was
Yes.
like 10 years old and I imagined this.
No,
Yeah,
from the show.
That happens in the
Clone
cartoon.
Wars. Yeah, in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah. He first builds these mechanical spider legs before he gets his regular like human.
And he goes to
What
like the
legs.
witches. Yeah.
What I'm saying though is I feel like I remember seeing that when I was like a kid, like way before Rebels or
No.
Clone Wars.
No, that the Spider Maul was a creation of the Clone Wars,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
I believe that was still under like the Lucas tenure, so it was technically not a Disney flub, let's say.
Right.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think on that note, I think our routine maintenance is all done, so we can get this ship flying. Thanks to everyone for coming aboard the Millenial Falcon. Hey, follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, we are on x.com, and we're on Instagram and Discord. The Discord group is always fun. Make sure to find us. If you even just Google Star Wars Podcast, you'll find all our socials. If you go on any of those social media sites, you can find us there. We also, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Star Lores, as well as we also take one-time donations on PayPal, starlorespodcast@gmail.com. And we also accept Bitcoin into magic internet money. So if you want to send us some of that as well.
The first Star Wars credits in real life.
Yeah. This is where it all begins. Okay.
If you have a whole Bitcoin just collecting dust or whatever, just toss it our way.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff will be in the link in the description. We have a sort of link tree there called Doris, so you can just click our Doris link, and all the good stuff will be there. So make sure you follow us, subscribe to us, you YouTubers, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for hanging out. See you guys.
Good night.